What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. Now, many of you have asked for a siege. Well, you're going to get one today. This is a very, very long siege on a map that I've never actually played on before. This is the Dwarven Ruins, which I don't think it's a new map, just like as it has never been seen before, but I think it is new in the new patch. And maybe I've played it in DAC or something like that before. But in any case, it's very wide open and offers a few different paths and choke points, pardon me, that defenders and attackers alike can exploit. So it looks like it's going to be pretty fun. So without any further ado, let's go into the army comps and then into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. Now, the first army we're going to look at today is the forces of the Dwarves of Erebor, being commanded by yours truly. I've brought some Ironfoot crossbows here to the tune of 3 units of Ironfoot crossbows. I've also got some Ironfoot warriors mixed in with my Ironfoot halberds. My Ironfoot warriors, of course, have their armor upgrades, so they look the same as everyone else. And it gives the Dwarves of Erebor this really nice standard professional look for their Erebor troops. I also got a couple units of the Ironfoot spears, 2 units of the Axeguard of Erebor, and of course a couple units in the back here of the Ironfoot axe throwers. Now, finally, well, not finally, but more importantly for a siege battle, I've got a unit here of the Dwarven catapult, which, if you guys have not seen it before, if by some miracle you have not seen anyone play a game with a Dwarven catapult, you're going to be in for a bit of a surprise. They're pretty damn cool. Finally, I've got a unit here of the Axeguard, or the Ironfoot Hammerguard, which are getting a significant buff. Oh, it's sort of a mixed bag in the hotfix. They're going to lose their AP, but they are going to get, I think they get their anti-cavalry bonus doubled and a little bit of extra damage as well. So, very scary unit in the coming patch, something you want to watch out for. But you also don't have to worry about them so much when it comes to toppling formations of infantry. These guys, on the other hand, Ironfoot War Goats. One of the bonuses that the Dwarves, yes, that's the one. The Dwarves of Erebor get is I believe it's a 15% bonus to their charge bonus for certain units. So 2-handed units, and of course the goats. So these guys actually have 17 charge instead of 15, which is a nice little bonus on top of the damage that they already do. But of course they are a heavy lancer unit, reasonably sturdy when it comes to standing up to arrow fire, but of course they don't have shields, so they're not quite as tanky as they otherwise could be. Let's move on to one of my allies here. We have the Dwarves of Khazad-dum. So yes, a lot of dwarves here are going to be reclaiming the Dwarven Ruins, and this army is being commanded by Robert Dickinson. He's got some 2nd Legion Axe Guard, who are going to be getting a nice buff as well in the coming patch. They're going to be getting 10 extra men in the unit, and I think there's some other things as well. For the Hammers of Gundabad, for example, going to be getting an extra 30 men in the unit, which is pretty intense. Some 1st Legion Pikes here as well. Very elite, but comparatively quite small army, I would say, to most armies. Some more Sons of the Fallen here. He's got 2 units, maybe just 1 unit Sons of the Fallen. A Dwarven Catapult as well. Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum. Some 4th Legion Shield Guard out in front to defend them. And last, but certainly not least, we've got some 3rd Legion Shield... Or the Shield Guard? No, they're just infantry. But they pack a lot of damage. 12 damage for an infantry axe unit with that's only one-handed is pretty significant. Moving on over to the Gondorian army, being commanded by TK421, which I love. Nice little subtle Star Wars reference, which I only just got. He has some Ramus Ekwar Garrison archers who are going to be getting some more morale rather in the patch. Fountain Guard going to be getting some extra men in the unit, but they're going to be losing their locked morale. But of course, they're still going to be AP, very deadly spear unit. Got some Gondor Spearmen as well, and a unit of the Shielded Fountain Guard who are damn sexy, and they will be keeping their locked morale for the new patch. Got some unlocalized placement text. I believe these are like the Pinneth Galen Riders, and yes, their name will be getting fixed in the hotfix. I believe it's already done. A couple units of them. And on his 2nd line, got some Citadel Guard, some Elisar's Honor Guard, Kaer Andros Swordmasters, and Wardens of the White Tower. Probably one of the strongest Gondorian elite units. And out in front, we've got the rank and file, the Gondorian infantry, 3 or 4 units of them. Another unit of Kaer Andros Swordmasters, Trebuchet, and some Citadel Guard, some AP spears here to defend that Trebuchet. So let's move on now to the 4th and final attacking army. We have the army of Isengard, being commanded by Crimson Behelit, one of our developers. Actually, he's the one who is behind this monstrous contraption right here, the very deadly new ballista unit that all of the orcs have gotten in the 0.95 patch. He's got one of those, ton of Uruk-hai infantry, a lot of pikemen in there as well, Uruk-hai archers, and yet more Uruk-hai infantry out there, a little bit extended on the flank. Got some Warg Riders, 2 units of Warg Riders from the looks of things. Maybe just 1 unit and a unit of Champions of the White Hand. Pretty sure he's got some crossbows, some Nazakai as well. All around a very infantry Uruk-focused army. I don't think he's brought a lot of the auxiliaries that Isengard can bring. Their auxiliaries are pretty decent. They're middling, really, but we're in the process of readjusting the Isengard units right now to make the Uruk-hai a little bit more fearsome, to make them more of the core. I've got some Uruk-hai Reavers in here as well, who are an AP shock unit. So that just about does it for the defending armies. Let's go ahead and let's see what the attackers have brought to the battle today. The first defending army we're looking at today is the Elves of Imladris, and they have brought, I believe, 3? Is that 3 units of the Imladris Blademaster? I think that's a little bit over the limit. And 3 units of the Imladris Sentries, again, over the limit. These units are normally capped at 2, so they've really put a lot of money into this infantry corps. Got a unit of the Gwyth y Arthans, which is the formerly known as the Phallus Lords. Very, very tanky spear unit. Will hold the line for practically forever. Got a unit here of the Gwyth y Myrdain, the People of the Jewel. Or is it Jewels? I think it's Jewels. And the unit of the Eldarinwe Heruquinga, which is the Eldarinwe archers, not AP, and they won't be AP in the hotfix. They will be getting a little bit of extra numbers as well. Hopefully make them a little bit more worth it in the eyes of many of the players. And finally, we've got a unit here of the High Elven Catapult. Very small High Elven force, but quite elite. Not one that will be very easy to knock down. Oh, it looks like they've actually got some Norityrna warriors as well. I think 1 unit there, and then maybe a 2nd unit hiding around somewhere. In any case, moving on to the next defending army, we have the forces of Ragnar, who's commanding the Misty Mountains. He's got some heavy goblin archers. He's got 2 companies of heavy goblin archers and 2 companies of the heavy goblin crossbows. Yes, indeed, 1, 2. Also got some black Uruks of the mountain, who, as I mentioned in a previous video, these guys are getting a really nice aesthetic upgrade that's going to make them a little bit more high quality, I think. This model is a little bit dated. It's been around for, I think, about 5 or 6 years at this point, and that's being done by the Cowering Coma, so big thank you to him. He does a lot of our amazing reskins, especially for Lindon, I think, is the most salient example of his work in my mind, so yeah, all praise be. In any case, he's got a couple units here of the Black Uruks of the Mountain, and what else has he got? Well, that's Mirkwood. We'll get into Mirkwood in a moment. Got some heavy goblin infantry out front here, and looks like the High Elves brought a unit of the Eldarinwe Herumairo as well, which is our heavy lancer unit. That's my bad, guys. More heavy goblin infantry, and I think he's got a unit of the Dol Guldur Bodyguard. He's got a ballista, of course, as well. Some counter artillery, always a good thing to have, especially in an open map like this. I got some blackback berserkers, some snow trolls, and the ferocious White Uruk Fearmongers. There's 2 companies here. They're going to be limited to 1 in the new coming patch, but they are getting a little bit of a buff to compensate. Got some heavy goblin spears here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of heavy goblin spears. I think it's just the spears in there. These are AP spears, by the way. Very deadly. Couple units of the Mountain Orc Berserkers who currently cause fear. They will cause fear for this battle, but they will not be causing fear in 0.95.1. And they're also going to be losing their fear trait. But I think that does it for the Orcs of the Misty Mountains. Let's move on now to the final defending army. We have the forces of the Realm of Mirkwood, who are getting a huge buff in the hotfix, but there's so many things that I can't quite remember them all. The Hiri Lang, of course, will be getting a little bit of extra attack and melee defense, and I think their price is getting adjusted as well. So 2 units here of the Hiri Lang, a bunch of the Megil in Erin, who are going to be getting 2 extra armor. Got a unit here of the Delupeng y Emendwyr, who again are getting 2 extra armor, bringing them up to 3. And that's a ranger unit, by the way. I think there's a couple units of the Delupeng y Emendwyr who are deadly, deadly, deadly. Now, many people have concerns about rangers. Well, don't worry about it. We're working on that, and that's going to come in the form of an ammunition nerf for the ranger units across the board. Yeah, there's a 2nd unit there of the Delupeng y Emendwyr. And moving down here, we got some Thandrim y Erin, another unit of Thandrim y Erin, some Rechbin Amon Lank, and I think we've got a ballista down here as well. And maybe there might be some hidden units around here as well. But for the most part, I think that does it for the Elves of Mirkwood. Let's go ahead and jump into the replay. The battle is going to kick off with some very aggressive cavalry play here on the part of the defenders. Got the Eldarinwe Herumairo, who are heading out into the field looking like they want to cause a problem, especially for the dwarves, who are really limited in their mobility. And as a result of that, you can see that I'm actually going to move forward with my cavalry almost immediately, because I am definitely afraid of getting run down by defending cavalry. If you guys have seen Pixelated Apollo's Defending Siege of Edoras, or the Siege of Edoras, where the defenders all sallied on me at the same time, it has definitely caused me to be paranoid. So I'm going to be clutching my shotgun in that corner over there, and yeah, preparing for the worst against those Eldorin Herumairo. But the Dwarves of Khazad-dum are going to be much more of an easier target, I think, for a unit like that, just because they have no cavalry units whatsoever. They are a full infantry force, so against the Herumairo, who can do a lot of damage on the charge, potentially that could be a big problem for the Dwarves of Khazad-dum. And of course, there are our exposed units like our artillery and things like that from the Gondorians that are going to be a great risk from a unit like the Eldorin Herumairo. Oh, that's great to say. I love doing that. Eldorin Herumairo. Going to be thinking maybe twice about going after my Dwarven forces. You can see I've got the Hammer Guard out in front there. Not a unit that you want to tangle with. Even in this patch, they are AP and they can really do a number against cavalrymen. Yeah, those Eldorin Herumairo instead. I think they're going to go after maybe the Gondorians or something like that, but Isengard is moving in with their wargs to lend some support to Gondor, who does not have cavalry of their own. Actually, no, they do have a couple units of cavalry, but definitely cavalry that is outclassed by the Eldorin Herumairo to try and lend a little bit of support to their allies. So a great move there on the part of Crimson Behlid. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward things just a little bit here. Eldorin Herumairo. This is looking like they're just kind of wandering around, and Isengard is going to go right for the throat here. It seems like a bit of a miss micro here. It may be the Imladris player was thinking that they had set the unit to run or something like that, but they are actually going to get caught out in the open here by the Eldorin Herumairo. The Imladris player is going to have no choice but to charge forward and try and get that charge bonus going against the Warg Riders and maybe cut them down. But with the addition of the Champions of the White Hands, these Eldorin Herumairo are really in a tough position. And you can see them now falling left and right to the vicious Warg Riders of Isengard. These are Noldoran warriors who have fought for centuries. Unfortunately, this tactical blunder definitely not would not be typical, you'd think, of an Noldoran force. But now they're going to be fleeing in that direction. The Isengard forces are going to have new enemies to deal with in the form of the Urekbin, the Amon Blank. And now that the Isengarders have really extended themselves, moving forward as quickly as possible to try and get into position to assist their ally TK, who is unfortunately not moving forward to help them out. So as a result, these Uruk-hai archers are going to be caught out in the field by the Urekbin Yaman Lank. That is a big charge. Crimson very wisely running in the other direction, trying to minimize the impact of that charge. Only a few of the Uruk-hai are going to get caught up there. That could have been a lot worse if Crimson wasn't on top of his micro for this particular stage. But the Urekbin Yaman Lank are going to be able to pursue them more or less unopposed. See the Champions of the White Hand moving in, but they're not fast enough to catch the Urekbin Yaman Lank. We're actually going to be getting a little bit faster, indeed, in the new patch. In the new hotfix, I should say. Uruk-hai archers, unfortunately, their luck has run out. And those Urekbin Yaman Lank are going to be able to get a fairly punishing charge there. It's going to cost them quite a lot of their men. Now, Crimson has moved up with Uruk-hai infantry, but there are no pikemen or spearmen nearby. So if these Urekbin Yaman Lank in this kind of situation were to turn their attention on the Uruk-hai infantry, especially in a big wide line like this, they would be able to basically butcher a unit of them with their charge bonus. But I think the Mirkwood player, because the Champions of the White Hand are getting ever closer, and of course the Gondorians are moving in with their cavalry as well, is going to ultimately decide that maybe it's not worth the lives of their cavalrymen. They're going to try and save these guys for a rainy day and just have this thorn in our side. Once we begin to move in, a unit of cavalry in our rear could be a big problem, especially for slow-moving vulnerable units like our artillery. But I think that's going to be all she wrote for the Urekbin Yaman Lank for the time being. Meanwhile, my Dwarves of Erebor are being very careful to skirt the edge of this mountain. You can see a lot of Elven archers up there, and with that height bonus, they might be able to just fire down into the flank of my troops, which would be not great. I don't want to take losses like that. Basically just on the approach before I've even managed to get any of my units into the fight, if I don't have to. Here's some artillery going off right now. I think that's probably the Gondorian Trebuchet trying to get a piece of some of these defenders on the inside here. A couple units of the Goblin Heavy Infantry that have formed up to defend this choke point. Might be trying to soften them up just a little bit. But let's go ahead and let's fast forward. So things are a little bit slow for the time being, but there is still this high-speed cavalry chase here. The Urekbin Yaman Lank moving their way up into the hills, hoping to lose the Isengard cavalry. They are faster, and they have better stamina, I believe, than the Isengard units. So they will be able to carry out this kind of cat-and-mouse game a lot better, a lot longer, and a lot more effectively than the Isengarders. Yeah, those Warg Riders now tired, trying to catch up to the Rekhbin Yaman-like, who are feeling comfortable enough that they can just begin to walk. Now that they've made it into this wooded area, it'd be a very simple thing for them to find a patch of trees and hide in it for an extended period of time, and just bide their time and wait for an opportunity to strike against our unprotected forces. Meanwhile, most of the attackers, it looks like some of the Gondorians here have moved in to try and possibly form some kind of screen that prevents the riders from coming back, but instead they're going to pull back now, with the rest of the Isengarders now circling back towards the front lines as Isengard moves in with their infantry. They're going to be the first into the breach, very boldly charging up the ramp to engage the defending forces. Ooh, looks like we got a catapult, I believe, from one of the defenders firing down into the Uruk-hai archers. Doesn't look like he managed to get a piece of any of them, though. Ooh, some friendly fire there. Is that what I saw? Uruk-hai archers going to be the first into the gap, but this does pose a particular problem for them. They are unsupported at the moment, and if the defenders were to move forward, then they would be able to catch the Uruk-hai archers basically at a big disadvantage. Most of them can't fight these units in close combat on a good day, but they are able to be peppered down by the defending missile companies up on the ridgeline there. Sorry, the camera's just flipping around all over the place inside of the archways. It looks like some of those Uruk-hai archers almost got themselves routed. Uruk-hai infantry moving in against the Goblin heavy infantry, though they are not particularly well spread out, and they are being shot to death by a lot of those arrow companies. So normally this is a fight that Uruk-hai infantry would win pretty handily, but right now, these heavy goblins are managing to get the best of them. Meanwhile, the rest of the Uruk-hai seem to be holding their ground at this point. It looks like maybe Crimson is biding his time and waiting for his allies to move in before committing any further forces, which isn't a terrible idea at all. Got some artillery support coming in from my Dwarven catapult. Trying to get a piece of those Sandrumierin. Against the Elves, artillery strikes can be particularly painful. Looks like that one may actually connect this time. Ooh. Couple hits there. We're going to kill 6 or 7 of those Sandrumierin, lying dead on the ground in a pool of their own blood, or immolating in front of their fellows in an inferno. And that is going to be enough at least to cause the Wood Elves to pull back from this fairly exposed position. Uruk-hai archers have now moved back in, trying to skirmish with the defending archer companies, but really not going well for them. The Goblin archers in a very nice perch here, able to just rain fire down almost with impunity against the Uruk-hai archers, having not taken almost a single loss. And the Uruk-hai archers are getting into rout and flee. Definitely a big loss here. Khazad-dum now second into the breach, moving in with some 4th Legion Shield Guard. I think these guys are upgraded. Indeed they are. That's their beautiful full-plate upgraded model. Gondor moving in with their cavalry. Interesting commitment here. It's not really too many areas for the cavalry to be of great use at this point. Although possibly against these new Arturian warriors would be enough to draw these guys, or to drive these guys back. And it looks like the Imladris player is going to begin to pull back with his archer company there. I mean, as the Gondorians bear down on them. And there's only so far that the Gondorians can go, though. A lot of pike units here. Some of the best pikes in the game, the Imladris sentries, guarding this breach. This is going to not be an easy fight for us at all once we move up here, even with our Dwarven infantry. Meanwhile, more and more attackers just pouring in here. You can see Isengard committing more and more of their forces, and now I have finally arrived on scene. I'm going to be able to help my allies as it is deemed prudent. But look at this. Looks like the Rekhbin Yaman-like now circling back. This is exactly what we were concerned about. Although Crimson Bahilit has very wisely stationed his 2 units of wargs on this wing of the army, although he is actually getting shot down by a very well-placed ballista from Son of the Dunedain up there. Getting a lot of kills in those champions of the White Hand, killing about half the unit there before Crimson Bahilit notices and begins to move them out. Really nicely played there on the part of Mirkwood. That's an extremely high-tier Isengard unit. Shame to lose them like that. Rekhbin Yaman-like, however, only have one pass that they can go through, so it looks like Crimson sees them and he's going to be able to bear down on them and drive them back for the time being. But let's pop back over to the front lines. To the 4th Legion Shield Guard, battling it out with the Sandrumierin. Some Axe Legion, or some 3rd Legion Axe Infantry coming in on the flank. These Sandrumierin are going to find themselves in a very difficult position indeed. Uruk-hai infantry from Crimson Behlead moving in against the Heavy Goblin infantry uphill. Not going to be a fun fight for the Uruk-hai infantry, who are now winded against these fresh troops. Especially not with these AP spears standing by. Looks like there's some nearby missile units that they can use to support them. Thandrim Erin now in full retreat as more and more Dwarven infantry pours through the breach. I wonder if these Thandrim Erin are going to be able to make it to the front lines. Probably not. They're going to have to fight their way through the Uruk-hai as well, and then ultimately find themselves surrounded. Uruk-hai somehow managing to pull it back now against the Goblin infantry, hacking them down left and right. Now the Dwarven reinforcements have reached the front line, but this is very much a killing zone. Look at this. A lot of dead Uruk-hai archers here. There's a lot of dead Gondorian cavalry as well. And that's because of the well-placed companies of archers mostly from Ragnar, actually. He's got his Heavy Goblin archers up here. I think a unit of crossbows as well. And they're just able to rain hell down upon our troops as they move forward. Guards of Orthanc moving this way. Looks like they've taken a little bit of damage, possibly. Might just be the smaller unit sizes. 4 Uruk-hai archers are all that remains of this once proud company of Uruk-hai. No right here, no warriors. Basically free to move out and skirmish at their will. So we're going to try and assault both of these approaches at the same time. The Guards of Orthanc going to be able to hold their ground against that for quite a while with their plate armor, high shield value, and of course their 2 HP. Ooh, one of them getting gunned down there by the North Tier Warriors. Just player is going to be forced to draw them now back behind his lines. Got some reinforcements here in the form of the Uruk-hai infantry. Some Gondorians and some Gondorian elites, some of the heavy hitters, Wardens of the White Tower, being committed to the assault on that right approach. The central approach, however, being held down by the dwarves and by the Isengarders. Heavy Goblin archers now being repositioned here. Looks like there's some reinforcements in the form of the Elven Rangers. Now, once we notice these guys up here, we're really going to want to deal with them because, as you can see, they are well placed to rain hell down both into our reinforcements and into our troops on the front lines. So this is really nice positioning here on the part of Son of the Dunedain. Ooh, those Rangers are really giving it to the Gondorian infantry. And despite their armor and despite their shield value, actually a fair amount of them fell to the body piercing from those Elven Rangers. Some artillery now being moved in to try and give us the edge in these choke point battles. Some Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum as well. A nice, viable counter to some of those heavy Goblin archers. Although, actually, the Goblin archers now out of ammunition, having done their job quite admirably, more than paid for themselves. Pardon me. More and more attacking forces muscling their way in here, and it looks like the Imladris sentries now on the front line, but uphill, and able to be supported on the flank by the North Tier Warriors. This is really a tough struggle for the attacking armies. Let's take a look there. So far, the percentages are evenly matched. Gondorian infantry going to charge straight up there. Ooh, a wonderfully placed trebuchet shot, taking down one of those high elven catapults. The Arturian warriors being forced back by an advance from the Wardens of the White Tower and the Gondorian infantry. Gwyeth the Arthen being sent in to try and stabilize the situation and also to deal with some of the Gondorian cav. I think the Gondor player is trying to get around here with some of his cavalry and just run absolute havoc in the back lines of the Elves. And if that happens to the High Elves and those cavalry get a decent charge off on this Elder and Meharu Quinga and the North Tier Warriors, that's a lot of the killing power in a choke point like this, and that has been neutralized by the Gondorians. Well, unfortunately, most of the company is going to charge their way through the pikemen, and that's going to be really, really ugly, as I'm sure you can imagine. Let's go ahead and turn the speed down a little bit. It looks like, yes, indeed, the Rechben Yaman were managed to be cornered by the Warg Riders and by the Champions of the White Hand. A lot of dead Wargs there, though. Many of those Wargs would have been tired, while these Rechben Yaman are both spear cavalry and fresh. And so the Wargs of Isengard have paid a terrible cost here for neutralizing this unit of spear cavalry. But ultimately, the Champions of the White Hand are going to be able to fight their way out of this. There's enough of them there to beat, I believe, 12 units of the Rechben Yaman. So there you go. That particular narrative thread in this battle has been closed off. Let's pop back on over to the front lines where the High Elves still valiantly holding the line against the combined forces of Isengard and Gondor. So we have both Gondor and Evil Gondor for many intents and purposes. And they're really pushing the High Elves hard, but the Imladris sentries are holding their ground quite admirably. And now with a commitment here of the Imladris Blade Masters against the flanking Gondorian infantry and the Champions of the White Hand, or not Champions of the White Hand, Wardens of the White Tower, I think that the High Elves are going to be able to stabilize the situation, and despite their low numbers, really exact a heavy toll. Isengard reinforcements moving in, along with some more Gondorian infantry. Got some Elisar's Honor Guard moving up as well. A big commitment here from the attackers. Carandros Swordmasters and the Shielded Fountain Guard. That's going to be a lot for the High Elves to have to deal with. Meanwhile, on this front, the Gondorians, the Dwarves, and the Isengarders all pushing together. But still, the Goblins, surprisingly enough, holding firm, largely thanks to their positioning here and to the skirmishers and things like that are able to fire down and really thin out the numbers of the defenders. Finally, the Delupengium and Dwyer being focused down and driven back off of that hill where they can no longer be a threat to our armies. Although, of course, we now have the Goblin Heavy Crossbowmen up here who, against these factions, it's going to be an ugly thing indeed. Ironfoot Crossbows here from myself have been committed to trying to even things out a little bit against the Heavy Goblin Crossbows, but my forces are actually suffering quite badly. Ironfoot Crossbows definitely not in an ideal firing position here against the Goblin Heavy Crossbows. Managed to deal a little bit of damage, about 30 or so casualties, but ultimately I think it's going to be better left to the bowmen who can wait outside the range of the crossbows. Now I'm going to be moving my crossbows alongside the Khazad infantry forward to try and help my allies up here on this second approach. And let's just go ahead and see how things are doing so far. This is a beautiful fight here. The Imladris sentries in unheard of numbers alongside a higher than average number of Imladris Blade Masters really holding the line here against this concerted attacking effort to try and bust their way through. What do we think? This could be a good screenshot, yeah? Let's do it. High Elves, Uruk-hai, Trolls, and Gondorians all fighting together. I love it. And this is the kind of titanic line battle that we play Total War for, I'm sure. Slowly but surely, though, it seems like the Imladris Spearmen are taking casualties and beginning to lose ground, but the High Elves are just so well positioned here that they can cause so much problems for the attackers. Crimson Beheli doing his best with his Uruk-hai archers to try and put some fire into the High Elven catapult. Definitely an important asset there. Looks like the Mirkwood ballista rather has moved over as well, and that's going to be a problem. I'm actually moving in with a heavy commitment here of my my Dwarves of Erebor. Crimson Beheli moving in with his Nazakai and some Berserkers. Looks like I missed the Berserkers as well. It's my bad. A lot of AP here. A lot of really strong units, but they're being peppered from both sides, both by the Goblin Crossbows and soon to be under fire now from that Elven Ballista. That would be real bad for us. This is a great opportunity for that Ballista to get a ton of kills really easily, like between 10 and 20 men a shot in that kind of bunched up blob advancing uphill. Over on this end, the Goblins finally losing grounds. Heavy Goblin Spears almost overrun, though more reinforcements being moved in. Another healthy company here. Looks like some of the Gondorians have managed to break their way through, routing a unit of Thandrimi Aaron. They're going to be able to get into those Heavy Goblin Crossbows. Although outnumbered and behind enemy lines like this, it'd be a very simple thing for these Carandros Swordmasters to get routed. It looks like Ragnar definitely on top of things. Going to fall back with his Heavy Goblin Crossbows towards the safety of the Black Ruiks of the mountain. These Heavy Goblin Crossbows are being peppered down in the retreat, and this is at least going to keep the crossbows off of our back for a little bit longer. It's really been a struggle here, though. Surprisingly enough, things still very even. Many of the attackers have perished on this rampart here. Look at that. There's a lot of dead goblins, but a lot of dead attacking forces as well. Beautiful little choke point battle there. Let's pop back on over to the Elven side of things. Now that my Dwarf Warriors have moved forward, many of them have shield wall, and that's going to be a problem for these pike units. See that the elves have slowly been driven back out of position, and slowly but surely we are actually making a lot of headway on this right wing here, and that's going to be really important. Nazakai being engaged against the Gwaith Arthand, that's going to be an important linchpin in the High Elven line that we're going to have to deal with, and the Nazakai are the guys for the job. I hesitate to call them men. I don't know. They're the things for the job. Urukai Berserker's in there as well. My Ironfoot Warriors now advancing in shield wall formation. Going for the thinnest portion of the High Elven line. Going to try and break that down. Over on the flank, Ironfoot Warriors moving uphill. Also looking to try and lend a little bit of help here where the fighting is really thickest at this point. Still quite a lot of Blade Masters and a lot of the sentries. Still keeping our forces at bay. Ooh. A nice shot there by that catapult. These exposed Isengard forces here are making great headway against the Gwaith Arthand, but the Gwaith Arthand are standing their ground well, and that's going to allow that catapult the time it needs to really do some serious work. Let's go ahead and kick things back up into full speed. Ooh. Not as good for the defenders as it could have been. Those Gondorians, if they take one direct hit, we could see them rout really quickly. So the High Elven Catapult not having a great time there with the pathfinding. Meanwhile, on the front lines, you can see my Dwarven Warriors really driving a wedge between the Elven forces. Muscling their way in there. That shield wall, extremely valuable, and an important part of the way that the Dwarves fight. Look at that. The very low mass Elven units, some of the lower mass Elven units in any case, like their, like I believe their archers are a bit lower mass. Just getting muscled out of the way now and absolutely butchered. Now the High Elven line has finally been broken. Since the High Elves have committed so much to this fight, this is basically going to be the end of one of the defending armies. Though they're not going to give up without a fight, the Gwaith Mirdain fearlessly marching towards the Dwarven shield wall. They're really going to make the Dwarves pay for every step of ground that they take. So we've got some reinforcements here in the form of a ballista. That'll be really useful if he can get that into a good position. Meanwhile, attacking artillery, peppering down some of the defenders here. Trying to soften up this position so we don't have to get into a big slog like we did the last time. Heavy Goblin Spears. They're going to lose that fight, but look at the toll that they've exacted. A lot of dead Urukai, a lot of dead Dwarves. Definitely a lot of dead Gondorians in there as well, though it's hard to tell people apart. They're all mixed up and tangled in corpse piles on the ground. But yeah, this site held for a long time. I feel like we really paid a lot of paid for this crossing with a lot of our attacking lives. Heavy Goblin Spears here. Some of them beginning to rout. That is going to put the fear of Eru into the hearts of the remaining Goblin Spears, and they are wavering now. Could see some breaking here, and then ultimately a breakthrough for the attackers, which they have fought very long and hard for. Yeah, and that is going to be it for the Goblin Spears. They're going to lose heart and begin to flee. But the defenders are pretty well situated, I would say. Heavy Goblin Crossbows up here. Some Delupengiem and Dwyer. Well, they are a little bit exposed to counter-artillery fire, which has managed to do a fair amount of damage. Look at this. And now the Heavy Goblin Spears coming together, forming something resembling a shield wall. Don't know if they have shield wall or not. Ooh, some friendly fire there. Very unfortunate for the 2nd Legion Axe Guard. Ooh, almost some more friendly fire. These hardy dwarves, though, charging into the Heavy Goblin Spears, they're going to reap a terrible toll. Ooh, another very nicely timed there. Lucky that it didn't hit his dwarves, but nicely timed. Heavy Goblin Spears going to take a charge from those axemen as they take a big hit from the catapult. Ooh, the catapult just relentlessly poking holes in the defending reserves. Looks like they actually got a piece of the Heavy Goblin Archers. Heavy Goblin Crossbows, though, moving their way up towards this perch here. That's going to be really nice. I have to say, I'm particularly impressed in this battle with the defending troops' positioning. They've really used their skirmishers to, I think, the greatest effect. Ooh. Delupengiem and Dwyer now being committed to the fray. Seems like the defenders are really struggling on this end, but let's pop back on over to the other approach. And it looks like the High Elves have been more or less overrun at this point. They put up a tremendous fight with those pike units. A lot of dead attacking forces here, but ultimately they didn't have the numbers, and the attackers were able to just get in there and swarm them. The Gwaithir Myrdain have managed to... Looks like they pushed back the dwarves with heavy loss. But now they are surrounded, being attacked from the rear by the Blackbacks. And that AP is really going to be a hard counter to the Gwaithir Myrdain's high armor values. Nazagai have now broken through on this end with the help of the Gondorians and my Dwarven warriors. And Imladris Blade Masters being overrun and surrounded. Some Ironfoot crossbows here. Actually, I think they were in a bit of a shooting match with the... I can't remember what they're called. They're like the Arthalion Yaman Lank or something like that. One of the Mirkwood units, one of the high-tier axe units that they have. Mirkwood reinforcements coming in the form of some Hir Yauth. Very deadly units. Getting a nice buff in the new patch. New hotfix, I should say. Mirkwood now coming in. Looks like the Misty Mountains also committing a unit or two, possibly, of their Mountain Orc Berserkers to the fray. And that's going to hold up the attackers even longer and cost more of their lives. A lot of our forces here are actually exhausted, so these fresh troops are going to be able to do a lot against these very tired, very battered attacking warriors. Let's go one last nice sweep here across the battlefield. A company of Hiriath. I think there's another one. No, this is one company of Hiriath trying to stabilize the situation here on the High Elven right wing, but I think it's too little, too late. There is more than enough attacking forces here to overwhelm the High Elves and still be able to keep the Hiriath at arm's length. Let's pop back on over to this side. Heavy Goblin Spears doing pretty well for themselves. Against these very tired attacking forces, and now with those crossbows raining death down onto the flank of the attackers, even the Fountain Guard are not going to be of much use in this kind of situation. The defending archers here not really well placed to counter-snipe these heavy goblin crossbows. Definitely would be a better idea to try and get them up onto here so they could fire on more or less equal ground. Yeah, there's definitely an opening that they can be brought up onto, so not the best positioning there for the attacking archers, and it is going to cost the attackers a lot. Now, those crossbows are able to fire almost directly down onto the attacking infantry as they're trying to deal with these AP spears. Let's see what kind of reserves the attackers have. They're actually running a little bit thin. I think most of the remaining troops, there's some Khazad-dum troops here, these First Legion pikes, that's a big deal. A lot of my Ironfoot warriors still around. Got some cavalry here as well. Many of my Ironfoot warriors have been brought up. Some Uruk-hai still left over. A little bit of archers there for the Dwarves of Khazad-dum as well, but there's not a lot of Gondor left, and most of Isengard has been destroyed as well. So we have managed to destroy almost basically one entire defending army, but we've also paid for that with the cost of 2 of our own. So if we look at the percentages here, we've managed to pull ahead a little bit by about 6%. The defenders are down by about 6%, but I gotta say, with these crossbows up here, they might be able to even that out, especially if we keep getting more friendly fire like that. Those percentages can turn around real fast. Let's pop back over to the other side of things. The High Elves have been thoroughly beaten at this point, although the Gwaithir Myrdain somehow managed to fight their way out of an encirclement by the Blackback Berserkers. They're now fighting over on this end of the battle against the Hammers of Gundabad. Now, honestly, these Hammers of Gundabad actually are being attacked on the other side by the Aradireth Amon Lank, so the High Guard of Amon Lank, or the King's Guard of Amon Lank. Combined with the Gwaithir Myrdain, they will be able to beat down these Hammers of Gundabad. Oh, he's getting killed by an invisible attacker. Oh, I feel so bad for him. This is terrible stage acting right there. Mountain Orc Berserkers backing up the Elder and Meheru Quinga, making short work of the Gondorian infantry, driving them back. Citadel Guard even thinking about routing. The only thing really tying the Gondorian forces together is the Fountain Guard. And that's going to leave a lot of my very tired Dwarven units to fight against this fear-causing unit, which could be a problem. You can see that some of these units are actually shaken. So if this wing breaks, that's a big deal. That's a lot of dead attacking troops in favor of the defenders. Yeah, look at that. The percentages not quite even, but definitely more even than they were. About 2% closer together than what they were previously. Obviously, they're 4% now, but yeah. More Hirialth moving in, trying to drive back the attackers on this wing. Nazakai, combined with the Ironfoot crossbows, have surrounded the Hirialth, who just pushed too far ahead. And now they're putting up a last stand here, fighting back to back. Looks like one of those Nazakai just got cut down by the Hirialth. Ooh, attack from the rear. That poor Elven swordsman didn't even see it coming. And they are beginning to fall like leaves in the forest. Although another fresh company here, backed up with some Mountain Orc Berserkers. That could be a problem for us. Let's move back to this choke point. Heavy Goblin crossbows now adjusting themselves. We've managed to break through the Heavy Goblin spears at fairly high expense. But now the Black Orcs of the Mountains have been engaged, and there's still a lot of Misty Mountain forces yet to come. We'll take a look at those in just a moment, but let's get down in the battle first. Khazad-dum dwarves, Gondorian warriors, far from home, being cut down by these vicious Uruk swordsmen. And there's still reserves here as well. You get here of the Megalieren, who would certainly not be unwelcome on the front line. A couple units of the Hiri Lang as well. And of course the White Uruk Fearmongers, and some Hiranek. I think they've just got some Rangers up here as well, nearly a full company of the Dilipang Yaman, where, oh look at this, I forgot about these guys. These are the Mirkwood Assassins. I think some of them, I think they're modeled after Tauriel, and I'm pretty sure that they're female elves. They've definitely got her knives. Very, very deadly unit. My bad for missing them, but they do hide everywhere, so I'm sure you'll forgive me. Back here on the front lines, though, the clamor of battle can be heard for miles around. And this Black Uruk's definitely getting the best of the dwarves and the Gondorians in this prolonged fight. Bit of a desperation move here. Some Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum moving in. A little bit of range fire support. Meanwhile, those Goblin Heavy Crossbowmen, still almost full health, just doing so much damage to the attackers. And look how much that's evened out. Ooh, although a devastating volley there from, I think that's the Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum, all along the length of that Goblin crossbow unit. Another volley coming in as well. Let's kick it into full speed there. And finally, someone is able to do something about those Heavy Goblin crossbowmen, possibly being able to drive them from the hill. Let's move on over to the other side, where the High Elves and Misty Mountain still holding on. Many of these defeated forces really struggling to deal with the high melee defense elves and with the high damage of these Mountain Orc Berserkers. Hirialth here, running in to try and avenge the deaths of their comrades against the dwarves and against the Isengarders. These Nazakai, though, are having none of it. They have not budged from the place that we left them the last time. They are holding this hill, holding the line, almost single-handedly. Ooh, that Mountain Orc Berserker meeting his end at the blade of one of the elite Nazakai. Let's see this this fight here between one of the Hirialth and the Nazakai. I love it. I love these little tiny stories. Ooh, one of his brothers getting cut down beside him. The high melee defense of these Elven units bearing them in good stead, but it's just ultimately not enough as the Nazakai are being able to grind these comparatively lightly armored Hirialth down. Isengard moving in with some fresh pikemen. Some more Ironfoot warriors here. That's going to be enough to surround the Hirialth and all but ensure their destruction. Aldarinwe Heru Quinga being pushed through by the Isengard Ballista, believe it or not. Breaking up that formation and now exposing them to the tender mercies here of the Dwarven Halberds. Looks like the Gondorian general just went down in an extended punch-up with the mountain, the Black Orc Berserkers, or what are they? Black Uruks of the Mountains. That's it. Looks like got some breaking here. Some of the Dwarves of Khazad-dum. Some of these Dwarven ruins aren't quite so important to them anymore. First Legion Pikes, however, being brought in an opportune moment. And they're going to do a ton of work against the Uruks. Although the heavy goblin crossbows, they have taken great loss, but they're much better protected and in a great position here to deal a lot of damage to the First Legion pikes. There's still enough of them left to be a serious threat. And look at that, the First Legion pikes really have no defense. It's like shooting fish in a barrel for them. Black Uruks being drawn back. So heavy goblin crossbowmen being left to try and hold the line. Really, the name of this game is just keeping these important units in place so that the crossbows can continue to get kills on them. Some 2nd Legion Axe Guard here. Looking like they've reformed after routing. Orcs of Khazad-dum now fleeing, but more Dwarven warriors moving in to pick up the pace. These poor First Legion pikes. This is normally an easy fight for them. So the High Elven General finally cut down on the other end, but yeah, it's still reasonably close. It seems to have been within about 5 or 6% of each other, but it seems like the attackers are really starting to gain ground. What do we got here? Ironfoot Axe Throwers. Ooh, that's going to be a nasty thing for the White Uruk Fearmongers who have been brought in to try and hold the line, try and stabilize things. Those Axe Throwers are going to get off a volley or two. The White Uruks are going to be ultimately pulled back. But now those Goblin Crossbows are going to turn their attention onto the Ironfoot Axe Throwers. But at least it gets them away from the First Legion pikes, who are now starting to bring the fight back here, since these Black Uruks are deprived of the support of those Goblin Crossbowmen. Ooh, more of those axes claiming the lives of many of those White Uruk Fearmongers. This is proving to be a costly mistake for the defenders. Ooh, very lucky that more of those White Uruks didn't die. And a lot of my Ironfoot Axe Throwers actually got shot to death by those crossbows, so I'm going to draw them back, try and save their ammunition for a later date. And now we're moving into about 2/3 of the way through the battle or so. And we have finally broken through on this end. And the remaining attacking forces being cleaned up. The Ballista of Crimson Behelit got a little bit exposed right now. Wonder what they're planning. They might be going after the Iargwe Yinanweth. Wow, I did a terrible job with exposition on the Mirkwood army. I'm constantly finding these new units that are surprising me a little bit. Oh, that Ballista against a tightly packed unit like the Iargwe Yinanweth. Let's see if they get any shots off. Champions of the White Hand moving forward to try and support the Nazagai against the Aurdeodith Yaman Lank. We're charging into combat against the Isengarders. Looks like they cut down most of the Nazakais. Ooh, very lucky thing there for the Iargwe Yinanweth. Pardon me. Those Champions of the White Hand tying these guys up in melee. This is not a fight that they're going to win, but they might do okay. Ah, finally. That Ballista really doing some work there, taking down some of those Mirkwood bodyguardsmen. And now they're going to be forced to flee. Either did that the Yaman Lank trying to move in and support that bodyguard, but they're actually going to get attacked in the rear by the Champions of the White Hand. Nice charge there, going to cut down many of those elite Elven warriors. These Warg Riders pursuing these Iargwe Yinanweth to death. That's going to force them to turn around and hold their ground. And they're going to quickly rout those Warg Riders, allowing them to flee back to the safety of the town center. Well, let's take stock of all of the craziness that has happened here. A very bloody struggle. The final push from some reinforcements here, some Hammers of Gondor and some Axguard of Erebor, and some of the Isengard pikemen as well. The attackers were finally able to break their way through, but damn did it cost them a lot. Looks like some of the Ironfoot cavalry units have managed to break their way through this choke point. The Black Uruks have finally been swept aside. And those crossbows, of course... No, actually, no, I think they got away. Indeed, they did get away. I saw that they had their weapons out, so I thought that they were out of ammunition, but I think they turned out to not be. Here we lying here, backing up the White Uruk Fearmongers. Although this is This is definitely an exposed position. Now it's of course great for the Rangers who are up here on the hill. Very nicely thought out, of course, by the defenders, who've been consistently good at positioning their forces all throughout this siege. But we have a lot of missile units left. I have not really used my catapult at this point, and I've still got a ton of crossbows and, of course, my axe throwers. See, the Dwarves of Khazad-dum also still have their artillery, and they're moving forward. I've got my artillery down here, although I leave it way too far behind. This is very foolish on my part. I think I just kind of forgot about my catapult and was busy just doing other things, so this needs to be brought forward a lot sooner. Meanwhile, the rest of my troops are mustering at the at this choke point that saw the death of so many of our attacking forces. It's like, look at this. Look at the destruction here. And again at the bottom of the hill. This has just been a bloody grind for attacker and defender alike all through this choke point. Let's see what we got here. My Ironfoot Hammer Guard charging into battle against the Megalierin. That's going to do a lot of damage to these guys. Yeah, Megalierin taking a lot of casualties from that vicious charge from my Hammer Guard. And this is why we're actually getting rid of their AP, because they AP on the charge for cavalry units does a lot of damage. So next hotfix, this won't be able to be a thing. Ironfoot War Goats coming in from the rear. And ultimately the defenders decided that this was probably a better option, because if we want to bring our catapults and things like that forward, then our catapults are going to be within range both of their artillery and, of course, some of their ranger units that they've kept in reserve. So I think this is a smarter move on the part of the defenders, but I would expect no less. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit here, as things are going to slow down a fair amount while everyone gets their forces into position. Let's pop back on over to the other end. You can see the attackers have consolidated their gains and are moving in to threaten the town center with quite a lot of forces still remaining to them. Although this was a bit of an oops on my part, I didn't actually realize quite the extent of the pathfinding problem that my Ironfoot Halberds were having. Let's take a look at what the defenders have left. Comparatively little, although the Hiranek have reasonably high melee defense, and of course the Gwaithie Erin Galen they're AP. They're very deadly, and they've got high melee defense as well. Iagdwe Nanwait's still a thing. Aradia Yaman like a nice little AP unit. And the High Elves, what do you know, they're still kicking with a little bit more than a handful of Eldarinwe Heruquinga. Which, if you're curious, I think means it's like Elven Bowmasters or like Bow Lords or something like that. Now let's go ahead and let's put it up to 6 times speed. Dwarves of Khazad-dum moving forward, getting ready to engage the front line. Although I actually asked my ally not to pick a fight with them until I was able to move in with some of my my heavier hitting skirmishing force. Like my crossbows here, you can see leading the way. Orc Hunters putting some fire into the Whiter Rooks. That's going to force the defenders a little bit farther back up the hill. Although, this could be a good thing for them as well. Ultimately, it looks like the defenders are going to decide to fall back everything that they have to a smaller choke point, charging in there with my Ironfoot War Goats, trying to get a nice, a decent amount of damage done to that Hiri Lang unit, although unfortunately I paid for it with quite a number of my goats as well. My Ironfoot Crossbowmen turning up the heat here alongside the Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum against the Hiri Lang. Looks like I've managed to get through the defending lines with my Hammer Guard. I'm going to be charging them into the Delupeng Yemenduir. Trying to cut down as many of them as possible, but my Hammer Guard have been significantly weakened at this point from quite a lot of fighting, both in melee and from the Goblin crossbows as well. So they're going to lose. I'm going to have to draw them back and not be able to tie up those Delupeng Yemenduir as long as I would have wanted to. Let's get down and dirty with this little skirmish. First Legion Pikes, backed up by Orc Hunters of what is it? Ered Mithrin? I believe so. Orc Hunters of Khazad-dum, maybe. Beating down the Hiri Lang. A charge there from my Ironfoot War Goats is going to be enough to rout those guys and drive them back towards the town center. Let's go ahead and let's turn things down now. Delupeng Yemenduir, now very, very isolated. But my Ironfoot War Goats, I think they might get routed here if they're not careful. Are they going to be able to break through? No, they don't manage it, and they end up routing. Very unfortunate for them. Hiri Lang and the Gwaith Aran Galan, as well as the Delupeng Yemenduer, are really all that's left to try and hold the line. Oh, they're going to catch my Ironfoot Wargoats. My poor Wargoats. I was so sad. Slowly but surely, we're moving out with the rest of our Khazad-dum warriors, but there's just it's a long way to walk on tiny legs. And the dwarves are quite slow, so that's going to take some time. Let's pop back over to the other side where we're just kind of holding our ground for the time being. It really is going to come down to, oh, what do we got here? 2 Guards of Warthang facing off against the Elder and Weihadu Quinga. I probably would have saved them. It's not really worth throwing them away. You're going to, as a defender for a last stand, you're going to need every, all hands on deck, essentially. 82 to 74, the attackers have managed to get a significant lead on the defenders at this point. But the defenders do have the tools needed to really hold against us. White Orc Fearmongers, they basically run all the way. They've run like a kilometer all the way up this ramp and now uphill, finding themselves very tired. But they do have the tools. They've got the White Orc Fearmongers, and they've got a ballista that really has not fired a shot, I think, at this point. Delupeng Yemenduer, alongside the rest of their elven brothers, slowly but surely beginning to fall back. That's going to leave the lane open for the dwarven attackers. What do we got over here? Looks like, finally, the attackers on this side can get themselves into position to take the fight to the remaining defenders. And the defenders, they're ready to greet them. Look at this. Here, next spearmen on either side. Anything that we send up here is going to be surrounded on all ends and sandwiched. Champions of the White Hand getting in there. Wanted possibly to get a piece of the Gwaith Aran Galan. Luckily, the Elven player was on top of things. Ooh, a deadly charge there into the Hiri Alf, flattening quite a lot of them. It's going to allow my Guard of Erebor to get up more or less unimpeded, but this gap in their formation is actually really smart. You got to hand it to the defenders. They've been consistently on point with the positional play. My Guard of Erebor now very exposed to flanking fire. Hammers of Good and Bad moving in there as well. Delupeng Yemenduer, some rangers firing into the rear of our forces. Looks like the Gondorians, the Shielded Fountain Guard here, are going to do their best, though, to get in there, engage those rangers in close quarters, and push them out of that advantageous position. And this is sneaky. Look at this. I love how sneaky this is. The Isengard Ballista pushed just over the brink to the right spot. Just enough to be a complete pain in the butt. Over here we can see the Dwarven crossbowmen being assaulted by the heavy goblin crossbows as they move their way into position to try and put some fire on the ballista, actually. A small sortie here from the Misty Mountains trying to prevent that from happening, but honestly there's just too many of us at this point. Meanwhile, the rest of the Dwarven army still playing catch-up. And that ballista firing down into some pretty important assets, the Ironfoot crossbowmen, but in loose formation like that, they will be able to stand up to that pretty well. I think a better target would be some of my Ironfoot spears. I was definitely considered about my Ironfoot spears being focused down by that ballista. They could shred this unit down to half strength in just a few moments. Hammer Guard moving forward as well, looking like there's a gap in the Misty Mountain defenses that maybe I could exploit to sweep the ballista from the field. That would be a big deal for us. Meanwhile, over on this end, Hammers of Good and Bad and the Axe Guard managing to bust their way through the Hiri Lang, supporting the Hirinek. Got some Ironfoot warriors now able to get in to the rear of that Elven position and put a serious hurt on them once they kind of get their rear in gear. A little bit of a micro lapse here on my point. Ironfoot warriors not being used to their fullest ability. Sorry about that, guys. Just trying to turn down the speed a little bit so we don't miss anything. Axe Guard of Erebor running into the Gwaith Aran Galan. And honestly, it's an interesting fight, these two. Ooh, you can see those really cool two-handed animations there as those those double knife units just hack their way through the Dwarves of Erebor like whirling dervishes. That guy maybe got a little bit too overzealous, and now that merciless Dwarven axeman is going to bisect him. And one more for good measure. Urukai Pikes managing to break through here, and the Gwaith Aran Galan thinking about maybe routing in the face of the overwhelming might of the attackers. Some Hiri Lang, a fresh company of Hiri Lang, more or less fresh in any case, being brought forward. There's really not a lot of defenders left at this point. Still got the Goblin King's bodyguard over here as well. That's a pretty decent unit. Definitely one that is a serious threat. Well, my Dwarven forces have now arrived on scene. I think we're going to witness the final stand of the defenders here. 80 to 89. What do we got here? Isengard Ballista being maneuvered around, looking for an advantageous shot into those here and neck. That'd be pretty nice. I think that might be what they're going for. Let's see if they get it. Are they gonna? Come on, the suspense is killing me. Ah, well, in any case. Meanwhile, more reinforcements moving in. Ironfoot halberds. Oh, there we go. As soon as we look away. Come on. Pardon me. That's going to be a big deal for those elves. Another shot like that would very easily rout them. Meanwhile, the Hiri Lang doing really well. Oh, a lot of friendly fire there. That ballista just tore through its way through friend and foe alike. I think we're actually getting some routing there. My Ironfoot warriors, 36 Ironfoot warriors, routing in the face of a charge from the Uruk Fearmongers and the friendly fire from the ballista. Let's kind of turn things around here on this end for the defenders. That one champion of the White Hand, the lone champion here, fighting against the Fearmongers, possibly going to be enough to rout them. Dwarven catapult crew coming in as well. White Uruk Fearmongers are going to begin to rout. Over on this end, White Uruk Fearmongers doing their best to hold the line against the Ironfoot Spears. But these fresh units are going to be a big problem. These units of White Uruk Fearmongers are going to start to rout as well. A lot of that, I think, is due to their exhaustion. Exhaustion, in case you guys don't know, exhaustion has some pretty steep penalties on morale. I believe it's like as much as 3 or 4. So it can be the difference between staying in the fight and routing. Ballista being tied down by the 1st Legion pikes, and this is going to be a pretty costly attacker victory. More and more reinforcements pouring in. A lot of my Ironfoot warriors were held in reserve, and my allies did a lot of the heavy lifting in this battle, so great job to them. I mean, without their sacrifices, we'd never have gotten anywhere. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward a little bit here. Nah, we don't want to fast forward through a fight like this. We will turn up just a bit, though. Goblin King's bodyguard in there with the Hiri Lang. Really killing a lot of Dwarves of Erebor. Look at that. If you look at the grounds, it's a lot of dead axe guard there. A lot of halberds as well. Just being scythed apart by the Goblin King's bodyguard and by those elite elven swordsmen. And they've ultimately managed to break through. So got the Yargian Inanweth in there as well. Yaragwe Inanweth in the fight, dealing some serious damage. Ironfoot halberds now advancing on the Nanwaith. We're going to find themselves surrounded on all sides. Threnwheel fighting on the front lines alongside his bodyguard. Ooh, that palace guard hacking down one of those halberds. Ooh, big charge there from the Ironfoot Hammer Guard into the Goblin's Bodyguard, into the Yariagui Nanwith. And ultimately, that's going to be the end of the defenders. A lot of the Ironfoot warriors still remaining, but Khazad-dum and the other 2 factions are all but destroyed. I think Gondor is completely gone at this point. Isengard still has a small presence on the field. So my Ironfoot warriors here came back from routing. They're now being attacked in the rear by that Hiri Lang that we saw charge forward earlier. Woof. Looks like the Isengard general just got hacked down by the Elven bodyguard. Hiri Lang cutting their way through the remaining Ironfoot warriors. Somebody's general just died. I think that's the Mirkwood general. This bodyguard will fight for basically ever to avenge the death of their lord and defend his body with their own. Goblin King's bodyguard still in the fight, still fighting. 16 of them left over as well. A fair amount of the Yagwe Nanwe. That's hard to say. Oops. Hammerguard, Dane Ironfoot himself, leading the charge against the Hiri Lang on the front lines. A lot of his bodyguard are kind of getting caught out, though, by the Goblin bodyguard. Looks like Thranduil and Azog have joined forces here to try and kill Dane Ironfoot. Dane is ultimately going to retreat from that battle. Looks like he might just live to fight another day if he's quick. First Legion Pikes now moving in. That's going to be all she wrote for the defenders. Final count, 99 to 86. It was definitely a valiant struggle by the defenders.
The enemy is no longer in command of the city.
I think they played really well. Possibly if we'd have given them more money, it might have been a little bit closer. Might try upping the money. Usually we do about 20% more than the attackers, but we might up that to 25 and see how that does.
A man no longer command the city.
We definitely command the city. There's almost nothing left of them. Let's go ahead. We'll fast forward here through the final bit. Looks like Azog is actually the one who's holding things up here. Oops, try and get down there. Witness Azog's last stand. That archway is making it difficult, though. Where is he? Oh, I can't seem to find him. Oh, I know he's in there somewhere. Damn it, I was hoping to see Azog put up his last stand. No, it doesn't look like there's anything left over now. Dane Ironfoot charging into those heavy goblin spears, getting a few more kills. Popping heads open. Ooh, this could be really bad for him. Good idea to get him out of there. Don't want him to die at the last moment. Dane Ironfoot. Leave Dane the second Ironfoot. All that remains of his general's bodyguard. Alright, let's go ahead and let's fast forward here. Maybe it's farther down here. Maybe that's what's happening. Ah, there he is. Oh, come on. Damn it. There we go. I think that's as good as we're going to get. Witness the final stand of Azog. Azog and Dane Ironfoot facing off in close combat. But ultimately it is going to be one of the Ironfoot warriors that fells the mighty White Orc. And that is all she wrote. There's a little scrap over here between some of the heavy goblin spears. And ultimately, well, that includes our casualties as well. I think it was more like 85 or 87 to 100%. Very, very good. The Dwarves of Khazad-dum getting, I think, the highest kills on the attacking team, but damn did Ragnar do some serious work with his goblins of the Misty Mountain Army, coming in with nearly 2,500 kills. Put that in perspective, that's nearly 3,000 kills. That's almost as much as 2 armies worth of players. Very, very impressive on the part of the Misty Mountains. Gotta say, I was really impressed with how the defenders played this. Their positioning was spot on. Just ultimately, they just didn't have the numbers, and I think that came down to the amount of money that we gave them. So I'm definitely going to try upping the money in future sieges if we're fighting against an outnumbered defender and things like that. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Take a quick browse here through the casualties for you guys. And that's all for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this siege, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.